Hey everyone, so here's our situation. Next gen kicks off next week. Well, unless you want a non-USA PS5, but putting that aside, well, next gen's pretty much here. The launch hype is very real, but what about the future game lineup? Because yes, the novel appeal of things like Spider-Man, Miles Morales, or the Demon's Souls remake, well, that stuff's not going to last forever. So, what do the next gen releases actually look like beyond the launch lineup? If you want a lot of video game, then today's video is the one for you. And speaking of videos, hey, hit that sub button. Most of the people who watch this channel are not subscribed, and you can fix that problem with a simple click of a button. And hey, do the like button too when you're down there. It truly does help. And with that said, let's go. We're going to kick it off with Xbox, where really exclusive doesn't mean what it used to, because of course the Xbox exclusives will be on PC, and also a lot of them are going to be on the Xbox One and Xbox One X. I mean, hell, we're in a day and age now where Microsoft first-party games will be on Steam on PC. That's pretty sweet. So, what's actually there? Well, coming up right after launch is The Medium on the 10th of December. Now, that is a game by Bellular team, who previously did Layers of Fear, Observer, and Blair Witch. Now, what's odd about the backstory of this game is it was announced in 2012 for the Xbox 360, PS3, and Wii U, but it was then shelved for better technology, and hey, there's better technologies here. Your TLDR is, well, basically you're going around with dual world gameplay. Seems kind of interesting. However, it is patented, which I think really does suck, and also does remind me of a game called The Path that I did in first year of university, which was a 2D shifting world side-scroller. Quite weird. Well, 2020 sure is a year of delays, because minutes after I recorded this segment on The Medium got delayed. So no, it's not coming out in 2020, it is coming out on the 28th of January 2021. So it won't be that long, but certainly that's not as good for the console's launch lineup. Anyway, that's The Medium. Let's move on. Then next up, there's Senua's Saga Hellblade II, which is still slated for holiday 2020. They've just not told us when in holiday 2020. Now, if we're sticking with calendar year 2020, then yes, it should be very soon, and I'd really like to know, but maybe they could say, oh, sorry, it's fiscal year 2020, in which case it could launch between now and March 2021. But basically, we don't know, and that is a little bit bizarre. I think that's something that potential Xbox buyers would have wanted to know before they made their purchase. Now, this is something that was announced alongside the Xbox Series X at the Game Awards last year, so it certainly seems like a game that should be targeted for around launch. Next, we've got Crossfire X, a bit of a weird one because, of course, it's Crossfire, the massively popular FPS. I mean, it's basically a Counter-Strike ripoff, let's be real, but yes, it's the console version of it. It's exclusive to Xbox consoles, and what is then really weird is that it incorporates a single-player campaign made by Remedy Entertainment. That's very bizarre. Now, this game has been sitting on a vague 2020 release date since it was announced at E3 2019. And it still is that, but obviously 2020 is running out, thankfully. So what, is the game delayed till 2021? It seems like it will be, but we just don't know yet. Now, speaking of 2021, let's get into that. So, Series X and S properly get kicked into gear next year, where we've got, just to run through, Halo Infinite, Psychonauts 2, As Dusk Falls, Grounded. Those are all games that are going to be hitting us next year. Now, something that's less certain is, well, as an example, Starfield. Now, Starfield is Bethesda's development priority going forward, so expect TES 6 to be a long, long way off. But the thing about Starfield is, we've seen or heard basically next to nothing beyond leaks and a few tidbits from interviews. Now, those leaks do say a 2021 release, but that could be delayed or just be wrong. Now, we're not sure whether this will be an Xbox exclusive following Microsoft's purchase of ZeniMax, but I kind of doubt it will be. It could be, right? If they really feel like they need that leg up, they could do it. What we do know is that it is a game that definitely will be on Game Pass. The same goes for the next Elder Scrolls game, but it's a situation where Microsoft, they still do stand to make a lot of money by, selling the game on PS5 as well. At the end of the day, they're Microsoft, right? Their whole thing originally was making money from software. Now, beyond this sort of level of things, release dates are very, very murky, but we are going to cover the games. So there's Everwild, that's Rare's new fantasy animal thing. We don't exactly know what the gameplay is. Of course, there was the trailer shown in the July Xbox Game Showcase. It did look gorgeous, but there was no gameplay. And also, it did just lose its creative director, so who knows what's going on there. Could be a little bit before we actually hear more info on that game. Next up, Avowed. I think this is going to be a major one for Microsoft. So it's Obsidian basically kind of going for the Skyrim crown, it seems. It's a single-player action RPG set in the Pillars of Eternity universe. That seems incredibly exciting to me. It was revealed back in July. Leaks are saying it's got a late 2022 release, so who knows? But certainly, Obsidian are a busy bunch because they've got Grounded, they've got the Outer Worlds expansion, and of course then they're also working on Avowed. Now past this point, there's basically nothing that is hard confirmed, but there are some things that we could very realistically expect, especially from Bethesda, right? Where there's Wolfenstein 3, there is Doom 3, right? Elder Scrolls 6, then, of course, there's also Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo actually reaching over to Xbox once the PS5 exclusivity deal expires. Then, in terms of other things, there'll be Forza Horizon 5, likely, also a Forza Motorsports entry. Gears of War 6 is another pretty likely one. Same goes for the next Fable, which we have heard a little bit about, and likely a State of Decay 3. So, that's what it's looking like for Xbox. Definitely a stronger 2021 than what they've got lined up for 2020, and that's even with some things seemingly being targeted for 2020, but not having firm dates yet. So, with that done, let's target PlayStation. So the PS5 is more of a generational reset than the Xbox S and X, but even with that being said, they are still going to share some exclusives with the PS4, and of course in some cases the PC. In terms of those, well, there's Temtem. Yes, Temtem is making its console debut on the PS5 on December 8th. Now, of course, that took Steam by absolute storm earlier on in this year, and it's that not Pokemon MMO-ish experience. If you want sort of off-brand Pokemon, then that's basically what Temtem does. That said, a lot of people aren't particularly thrilled with the pace of Pokemon development and innovation, so maybe Temtem is actually the game that's going to be doing more innovation there. Next up then, Deathloop. That is spring 2021. That was of course shown off during Sony's Future of Gaming show. Basically, it's a game about rival assassins locked in a time loop, which seems pretty cool, right? It's very much Dishonored-ish, which does make sense. It's made by Arcane. There's also Kena, Bridge of Souls, which was, I think, a pretty surprise standout. We didn't really see it coming. Now, this was originally set to release around launch, but it has been delayed to Q1 2021. Okay, so with that covered, let's move on to some of the games that we know are coming, but we just don't really know the dates for. So, Horizon Forbidden West, that's the obvious one, right? It was revealed back in June, and basically Guerrilla Games have been keeping it quiet ever since, so we're not particularly sure when this one will come out, but suffice to say, pretty much soon, right? It's definitely one of the earlier 2021 releases, and I think a lot of how you know that is also it is going to be on the PS4, so, or at least the PS4 Pro. I imagine the PS4 as well. So yeah, it probably is a good bit more close. There's also God of War 2 Ragnarok. We've not really seen anything beyond a cryptic title card for that, but certainly a follow-up to 2018's God of War is well worth looking forward to. There's also Ghostwire Tokyo, which is the other half of Bethesda's PS5 exclusivity duo, which of course is a Japanese paranormal horror game. Those are usually pretty cool, so I'm absolutely down for this one. There's also Stray. Yes, Stray is another game that definitely captured the internet's hearts, where you're, the only living thing in a world of robots. Seems pretty cool, but we just don't know a lot beyond that. Then next, Final Fantasy XVI. The next mainline Final Fantasy title is a timed PS5 console exclusive, and it could actually be closer than we think, because we've been getting a lot of information recently, and Final Fantasy 15, right? That had a pretty hefty delay. So I've got to wonder if Square Enix are really trying not to repeat that. Then, of course, and staying on Square Enix, there is Project Athia. Now, this is a all-new IP, quote, designed exclusively for PS5, but also coming to PC. So that's a bit weird. It wasn't exactly exclusively designed for the PS5 then. But yes, big old lush fantasy world. We don't know that much other than it could be coming anytime between 2021 and 2023. So quite a big window. Okay, next up, let's do the cross-platform releases, where we're going to kick it off with the obvious Cyberpunk 2077. Coming out December 10th, but note, It is the current gen version. Now, the current gen version is playable on the Series X and S and PS5 via backwards compatibility, right? So that is all, really good. But the full-blown next-gen version of the game is coming sometime in 2021. So you'll have to wait for the full sort of deal with that. Next up then, we've got Outriders. This is February 2021. It's kind of, I guess, Doom meets Mass Effect. It's a new IP from People Can Fly, who did Painkiller and Bulletstorm, so that could be pretty interesting. There's Far Cry 6 and Rainbow Six Quarantine, which are both games that, of course, were delayed recently into the next fiscal year. So, that's April 2021 to March 2022. That's a very big release window, but that's what the fiscal year is going to be. So that's what's up there. Far Cry is based around liberating a dictator-led island, so it feels pretty Far Cry-ish. And then, of course, Rainbow Six Quarantine is, it's basically just a full game based off Rainbow Six Siege's Outbreak, I think it was called, the event mode, which itself was pretty damn cool. And I suppose an innovative way to actually field test doing an entire brand new game. Anyway, Far Cry was originally supposed to launch February 18th, 2021, and Rainbow Six actually never got a release date beyond 2020. But the thing is, they're actually already delayed, because if you remember, Ghost Recon Breakpoint was an absolute shit show to the degree where there was a massive delaying of basically the entire Ubisoft slate. So it is interesting that these games have, been delayed again. Okay, next up, some more to-be-confirmed date games. A bunch of them will probably be 2021, though. So, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. We've been covering it a fair bit in this channel. Obviously, it's a long-awaited sequel. It's one with a lot of hype because of, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. But there's certainly rumors of tumultuous development. There have been delays. They recently fired 2 creative leads and lost another, so who knows what's going on there. Also, there's Chorus. It is a new IP from Deep Silver. It's a space flight combat game, which is obviously exciting to me because I love space flight combat stuff. Could be a good time. I suppose Star Wars Squadrons has got a little bit more hype in that space now, so I wish them luck with that, and I'm certainly down for more space games. Okay, time for some really, really to-be-confirmed stuff we just do not know. Dying Light 2. This is a game that seems to be the poster child for tumultuous, confusing development, perhaps after Vampire. It still is apparently coming. We have absolutely no idea when. Now, some of the delay is surely to get it ready for next gen and stuff like that, but we basically don't really know. Okay, next up, Steel Rising. So this is a Soul-like action game where you join the revolution against King Louis XVI's robot army. Yeah, you know what? Sounds bloody cool. Sign me up, but I don't know when because there is no inkling of a release date yet. Then, of course, there are some obvious ones in terms of the far future. The next Elder Scrolls, Starfield, we have no idea. They could be Xbox exclusives, but Todd Howard did say that he can't imagine they will, which is probably just going to mean, Microsoft can sort of compete a little bit unfairly by including them in Game Pass, meaning that all the value is on Team Green, but Sony people can still get those games if they want, which is, of course, no big loss for Microsoft because they still get to sell somebody a video game. Okay, upgrades. Let's talk about upgrades because this is all pretty exciting too. We've seen a trend of devs beefing up their existing games for the next gen. So, Gears 5, that hits the Xbox Series X and S November 10th. It has new difficulty modes, new character skins, new weapons, new achievements, visual upgrades, and story DLC that's coming in December. This, of course, especially that story DLC, that'll be the first Gears content, made on the Series X and S rather than upgraded for it, so that could be interesting. No Man's Sky, of course, that's another one. It is hitting the Series X, S, and the PS5 on their launch days. It's a free upgrade from current gen as well, and it's also on Game Pass. It will give you 4K 60, faster load times, cross-play. The PS5 will use the haptic feedback and 3D audio, which sounds very cool to me. Also, graphical enhancements that are making the way to PC. They're doing a great job over there. Oh, and 32-player multiplayer. Also, for Spider-Man, there is Spider-Man Remastered. This is included in the Ultimate Edition of Spider-Man Miles Morales on the PS5, and I believe also for a $20 upgrade on the base edition of Miles Morales. What can you expect there? Well, graphical updates. If you are okay with 30 FPS, then you will get an incredibly impressive looking ray tracing implementation in New York. It looks really cool, but it won't be there on the 60 FPS performance mode, but certainly it does look cool. You'll also get in that the completely redesigned Peter Parker. That's something that sure did cause, a fair bit of controversy. I didn't really play it, so I wouldn't really know. But yes, the situation there is the performance mode targets 60 FPS, which means that this is one of the games I absolutely want to play as soon as I possibly can get my hands on it, because I didn't play it, but playing what is by all accounts an incredibly good action game at 60 FPS, looking gorgeous on a nice new console, sounds like a good experience to me. Plus, it will have support for haptics and 3D audio on the new DualSense controller. Then, Grand Theft Auto 5. Yep, they're still going to keep on doing that one. I mean, obviously, GTA Online is an insane moneymaker. Of course, it opened Sony's Future of Gaming event back in June, for some reason, because nothing says future of gaming like a game from 2013. But what does it get? Well, it gets enhanced visuals, it gets more responsive technical improvements, whatever that means. Basically, it'll probably just play better. There's a standalone version of GTA Online as well, and it's going to have next-gen and PC exclusive content. And it's going to be releasing in the second half of 2021. So they actually seem to be taking their time with it, which is interesting to me. So, to close off this decently long video. It's a lot of video games. But we thought it'd be kind of nice to bring all the video games into one place so you could know what to expect from the video games. Overall, I would say, yeah, big hype. This next generation, honestly, to me, sounds absolutely fantastic. Yes, there's the obvious pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses of both teams, but fundamentally, you are getting two multi-platform title boxes that cost they cost a very reasonable amount of money for the pretty ludicrous performance you're getting from them. And on both sides, there are really good exclusives in the very, very long term. Obviously, Sony have got their little win at the start, and I guess the controller for them, which is also a win. But basically, nothing's bad. It's bloody good. There's so much video game to play. And if you're someone like me, who really, trying to grow the channels and working, I guess, a little bit too hard sometimes, a bit stupidly, I would say, certainly to the point where it's not efficient and I net waste time. But that's meant that there's so many games that I have not played that are from the past generation. Now, hey, you can pop them into these new consoles and they will run at 60 FPS. And that is just like how I would get a new graphics card for my computer and be happy my games are running at a solid 60 or maybe 100. I'm still going to get that experience for a massive library of games that already exists. That itself is a pretty damn amazing win. There you go. That's the video games. If you want to get more video games, hit that sub button. If you want to get some cool pins and also some cool stuff that I don't have to hand right now in the mail once this month ticks over, you can check out the Patreon. It does help us out a bunch. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.